The stone flopper is a fly that I've been fishing for a long, long time. It's been in the fulling mill pattern for quite a while. It fishes great as a stone fly, fishes great as a hopper. You can tie it in a million different colors, but there are two little tweaks I'm going to make on it. So check out the video.
That's a big brown throw.
This is the stone flopper. I think this is the third time that we've done this fly, but I keep kind of making little modifications to it. You'll see a few things different on this one. This one's going to be tied kind of as a more slender fly. You can tie them either bulky or slender or whatever, but I'm going to tie a thin version. I'm just using a 1710 Daiichi hook. It's a 2x long, kind of a streamer hook, but I want the extra beef to that hook so it will turn this fly over. It's got quite a bit of foam on it. All right, to tie in tails, I just have some simple brown round rubber legs, and I'm going to come up about mid shank on this hook, and I'll tie in the rubber legs on one side like that, and I'll pull this back and wrap back, maintaining that on the opposite side of the hook from me. And then once I'm down here, I'm just going to pull this one down and pull it right next to it and pinch it, and that will splay those legs off at good angles, and then I'll just come up here and cover the rest of that up. So if you do it right, you should be able to straighten them out. Don't stretch them when you do this, and trim it. You'll have nicely split rubber legs. You can kind of manipulate them afterward if you need to. All right. For the rib on this, I'm just using a piece of Spanflex type material, and I'm just going to use that as a rib, so it doesn't matter if it's straight or curly or any of that kind of stuff. And then for the body, this is a really cool dubbing. So this is called Ultra Dry Dub, and the color's Hare's Ear, and it's a very buggy dubbing, but it's buoyant. It's mixed up with a lot of buoyant materials, so you can get a nice buggy looking hare's ear type body, but that will float. So that's one of the main differences on this fly. Bear with me. It's got a lot of dubbing in the body, and I want to compress it down really nice. So I will build a dubbing noodle and be back in just a second. So as you can see, as I wrap this, it's got a lot of just gnarly stuff poking out of it. That's the proper term. I read it in the Fly Tying Bible the other day. Anyway, so here we have our body. I'm just going to counter wrap that with this Spanflex stuff, Flex Floss, and trim that, or tie that and trim it off. Let me just show you that again. This is a little hack. So you notice I only did 2 turns of thread to tie that in, which is probably not enough. But if I now just get that out of the way and just wrap back up over the top of itself, now I've got 5 or 6 wraps, and then I don't have to worry about crossing underneath it, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. All right. The top of the fly is just going to be foam. I have taken a piece of just 2 mil foam. I've cut it to width, and I've lightly singed it with a lighter. If it shrivels all up on you and catches on fire, that means you got to do it again. Check this out. I've been playing with streamers, so I have marker all over my fingers. My apologies. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'll just lay it down. I want it to extend over the back of the body a bit, and we'll just tie that in right where that body ends. We'll trim this piece off, and if you don't glue this part down, it will kind of flap all around when you cast. So I'm just going to come in here and lightly dab some glue. This is Z-Ment. It's a super glue, so I'm just going to tack this down, just press down lightly on it. So that's what we're looking at so far. All right, so I'm going to tie the rest of this foam in. And maybe come back. I'm going to tie this all down because I'm going to put quite a bit of stuff up here in the front. All right, and for the over wing, I did deer hair. The last version I didn't have deer hair, it had EP, and I'm using more synthetics. There's a few different alternates you can see in the recipe that's in the description below. So I'm just going to tie in, I don't know, about that much, and then fold it on top of itself. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to spread that out a little bit so that it covers the wing. It's not just all coming out in one glob, and that will help it lay back better. So I don't know if you can see that, but I just spread that wing to cover that whole piece of foam. So now, if I do that in the front as well, when I fold that back over, it's going to have a wider footprint, and it will lay a little bit nicer. I know it's probably overdoing it, but I have to try really hard to impress these guys in the shop anymore. Okay, I'm going to pull that wing back, and I'm going to trim it a little longer than the body, so when we put the head on, it will help everything lay down nice. Okay, I've taken another piece of foam. It's cut maybe a little thicker than the last piece, but roughly the width of the hook gap. And I am going to take my thread all the way to the eye, turn it upside down, and I'm going to kind of pinch that in place. If I pinch it with my fingers like this, if I pre-pinch that on the hook, the foam kind of sits exactly where I want it, and then I just take my thread over the top of that. Look at that. Too much tension. I just cut through the foam. Brigham! Wait, was I supposed to swear so you beep it out? The people like that. Yep. Okay, same technique. I'm pinching down. I'm not going to be overzealous with my thread this time. And that will help me compress that foam down. And I want that to sit just kind of like this. Doesn't look pretty right here because the foam's going to just wad all up. Now, I'm going to take the foam, trim off a tab, and then reattach right on the top. But I want to tie my foam in kind of the same spot back that I tied the bottom piece in. So we'll hit it about right here. Over the top we go. And I'm just going to compress all this foam down. It's pretty critical that you have a nice rounded underbody to put this head on. I'm doing this as well. It looks like I didn't wrap the top piece far enough forward, so I'll just kind of put a few more wraps up here and really mash a few turns forward. Now as I pull that back, it looks a lot better. Okay, here we have everything tied in. I'm going to take some super glue now and just lightly paint that. You don't need a ton, but if you put super glue on, you can make your head look a little bit more like an oval as opposed to just like a smashed down piece of foam. So I'll lay the top piece on kind of gently across the top, just like that. And then the bottom piece, before I bring that through, I make a little slit right in the middle so that when I push it back like this, the hook point will slide in between that gap if it's too long. So just like that, we'll do a few light wraps, and then I'm going to take my fingers and really push down hard here. And hopefully I'm mashing that super glue out into the sides of that foam, and it kind of sandwiches down and makes a much flatter profile that way. Okay, so come in the bottom. I'm going to use some curved scissors, maybe make a little curved cut here. Going to line up the curve right. That's way unnecessary, but kind of looks cool. On the top, I'm going straight across. And maybe leave a little bit longer tab. Okay, so essentially, all we have to do now is put in some legs. And a legs and an indicator, and I've changed up both a little bit for this fly. You can use the barred legs all you want, but I'm just going to take, I think this is called mud brown or something like that. or stonefly brown, some witty fly fishing name. Look at the recipe. We'll put these legs in there. Just tie it on one side, loop it over, tie it in on the other side, and I'll trim off that large piece. And now I'm going to tie in a little hot spot piece of rubber leg. Okay, so this is something I've been doing on a lot of my hoppers. You can use marker to mark them up, but I'm going to add a few little trigger points or hot spots. And I've been doing it with rubber legs lately. So if you've caught any of the hoppers on the crazy hopper year we're having, you're going to notice that they have a lot of really brilliant colors on the legs. So we're just going to add a little bit of red here. And it's not going to be on the same part of the hopper leg that actually is red, but it just kind of adds that color to the fly. And sometimes that's all the fish want. Just a little bit of a trick. This is like Brigham's walking down the street. He sees a hot dog on the ground. He's probably not going to eat it. However, if that hot dog has ketchup on it, there's probably a 70% chance he's going to go full glizzy on that thing. All right, so now that we have that clear, I'll show you how we're going to trim those up in a second, but I'm going to take a little tiny slim piece of trigger point fibers, just like that. Then I take that front piece and make a little bulb. And trap that down. See how that worked? And the real trick is to try to keep the bottom of your fly clean without catching anything. So it's kind of a miracle that I did that. I'll trim that a little higher than normal. To finish this fly off, I'm just going to take some super glue and dab it right here where the indicator is. Take my thread, just mash it down in between those, and just trim it off. Put it down in here, and then make sure that you reinforce the bottom of that head quite well. Boom. Oh, that was very well. Very, very well, Brigham. Okay, let's make these legs look cool. Okay, one snip there. We're going to push them all forward. One big cut. So they're all pretty much the same length. These little red guys, I want them to be about a fourth of the length of, or a third of the other leg. Just like this. So there you have little red nubs that are kind of hugging that. But anyway, this is the stone flopper. It's a really cool pattern that I've used for years to mimic either a stonefly or a grasshopper.